Hey, lovely people, welcome to episode 33 of Book Read. Now, if you're up for a fantastic adventure, you're going to want to stick around for a bit longer because I'm going to be going to the UK to meet author BB ELSIN and to find out about her fantasy book, Heroes and Traitors. You know what? Let's go and meet BB ELSIN. BB ELSIN, welcome to your episode 33 of Book Read. How are you, lovely?
I am fine. Thank you very much, Jaden.
It's wonderful to see you, and I'm pleased you managed to take time out to come and speak to me with all the World Cup chaos that is going on at the moment. I mean,
Yes.
Obviously you're in England,
Yes,
and obviously you're supporting England,
I am.
but do you have any other sneaky favourites?
Well, you see, I've got German and Spanish relatives. I had a feeling before the World Cup that Spain were going to do well, but they haven't started well. But I will be watching the full matches of those teams as well.
So who's your order in three? England, Germany, Spain, or England, Spain, Germany?
I think probably England, Germany, Spain.
Oh, okay. Obviously, if I had, I support all the good-looking ones, so it's very difficult for me. But if I had to support a team, it would have to be, I don't know, I'd probably get lynched if I didn't support Mexico now I live here, to be fair. So I'll be a closeted England supporter, but I'd have to go, yeah, come on, Mexico, viva Mexico. I'd probably have to do that as well. So, yeah, so I try not to get too involved. But
I think Mexico will possibly get to the quarterfinals.
they're not doing too bad, apparently. I get to see them when I'm singing. I get to see their little legs running around on the screen behind me. So, and the bar staff keep cheering. So I guess it's quite positive. No one's thrown anything at me or the TV screen yet. So that's a good sign. But we're not here to talk about football. We're here to talk about something way more important. You. So, how did you become the author that you are today, BB ELSIN?
Well, I started off as a textbook writer. I went into the IT sector after graduation, and as I became a bit too old for that, I transitioned into consultancy and then being an academic. And when you're an academic, you have to write. And I quite enjoyed writing textbooks. I mean, it's all blood, sweat, and tears. When I retired, I didn't think that I would want to continue writing, but various health issues and discovering that other attempted hobbies sort of fell by the wayside, I thought, well, maybe I always have had an inkling that I'd like to be a creative writer. And I started off in writers' groups doing small scale pieces, flash fiction, short poems. I've been in quite a few haiku anthologies. But I knew I had to have a go at a novel. So I decided, well, I better take a course. Where I discovered, of course, that it's much, much harder than writing textbooks. But there we go. I persevered, and
No pain, no gain, right?
exactly, yes. And in many ways, Jaden, the process, particularly the editing, reminded me of doing my PhD.
Wow. Okay.
Because when I did my PhD, there was, of course, masses of editing and doing the book. I mean, fair enough, it was a first book. It was going to need a lot of work. Mm-hmm. Some would say it probably needs even more, but you have to stop somewhere and say, okay, let's share this with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Heroes and Traitors. Although I have to quickly put in as well that I think Blood, Sweat and Tears would be the good name for your next one, to be fair. But but Heroes and Traitors, tell us a little bit about it.
Okay, so it is a fantasy. in that it's set in an imaginary world. But this imaginary world looks very much like the Europe of the 17th century. There are civil wars going on. One has just finished. There is, all the dysfunction of disease, bigotry, general nastiness.
Sounds like 21st century, love.
Well, do we ever learn? And it does though reflect that people at that time were starting to believe in making the world a better place. There were philosophers saying life is nasty, brutish, and short, but there was a belief amongst some people that was probably the very, very early inklings of the Enlightenment. I crafted a hero based on Gustav Adolphus of Sweden, who was a military genius, but a man ahead of his time in a lot of social attitudes, and wondered where I could take him. And he's a flawed hero himself, but his quest in the fantasy sense is to craft a lasting peace in the country, his adopted country, because he's not a native of the country where he's been fighting. And so he undertakes to do things which he thinks are going to help heal the country. And so his story is the core story. But what I wanted to do was show the attitudes of lots of different competing interests. So his is one, but there are other political leaders in the new regime. There's a spymaster. There's a general who hates him for no apparent good reason. There are the defeated royalists, and there are the veterans, the army veterans. And one of the most popular sub-characters in the book is the leader of a group called the Distributors, who are based on the Levelers, who were campaigning in the 1640s for rights for all working men. Unfortunately, they haven't got round to thinking about working women. But obviously, this was a big kind of idea at the time, and considered by many to be a very dangerous idea.
Wow, it sounds amazing. Why this kind of fantasy book? Like, what was the inspiration behind it? Why not murder mystery? Why not history or medieval? Why this style of book? What was the inspiration? What triggered it?
Well, I did start off thinking I might write a historical novel, but it would have got like a textbook. I'm autistic, so I would have been obsessive about the research. As it is, I did do quite a lot of research for the fantasy, to make the fantasy setting realistic and consistent. I thought fantasy would give me more room for creativity. There is mystery in it. There's a lot of political intrigue. It's a very niche book in some ways, because if you like your fantasy as big and complex as Game of Thrones, Dune, and Jonathan Strange's novel, yeah, I mean it's along those lines. It's There's lots going on, and lots of people trying to make things work for themselves rather than the greater good.
Sounds like it's going to be a future movie.
Well, one lives in hope.
From my mouth to the Lord's ears, if they're listening. Absolutely. No, that sounds great. Would you like to read us some?
I would love to read you some.
Let's do it.
Chapter 1. Yonnis's skin prickled. He peered into the grime, not knowing which way to turn his horse. His eyes and nostrils were stinging. He tried to salivate to reduce the pungent taste of gunpowder smoke. Rhythmic musket fire and the cries of men were fading, and most chilling of all, he could not hear the drums. This did not make sense. His tactics always worked. His men always followed his lead. Was he deep behind the enemy lines? He must be. He had felt fear in battles before, but this was something worse. It was dread. Yonnis started to pray. Eternal Spirit, my light and inspiration, please forgive me my many wrongdoings. Help me to endure my passage to the afterlife and grant me everlasting rest. He felt a flicker of warmth in his heart. He had given his all for the doctrine of truth. The Spirit would not forsake him. Thunder cracked ominously. Rain followed, a pitter-patter at first, and then suddenly a downpour. This might disperse the smoke. He urged his horse to step around again. There was something not far off. The smoke swirled, and he caught a clear glimpse of a conical helmet. Instinctively, Yonnis urged his horse into a canter towards the helmet, his sword raised. If these were his last moments, so be it. He would go down fighting. As he closed in on the helmet, he could see a huge man underneath it, encased in heavy armour, and sat astride a well-padded saddle on a finely caparisoned horse. Yonnis's stomach lurched with hatred. It had to be him. He tried to suppress it. He shouted, "Sir, surrender yourself to the army of truth. Your cause today is hopeless. You are greatly outnumbered." Yonnis hoped this was still true. He had no idea where his men were. The metal head turned slightly towards him. Was this the chance that his gut urged him to take? Yonnis's head shuddered with memories of the screams of the day of lamentation. So many innocents wounded and dying, and somewhere in that cacophony had been his beloved wife gasping her last breath. Slowly, as if he might be conceding, the figure raised his gauntlet. He opened the visor of the helmet. Then he bellowed, "Never, you diabolical god-killer widower of a whore!" It was him. Yonnis charged, feinting to provoke a mighty blow. His target swung at him. Yonnis parried. The swords parted and clashed again and again. The armoured man was big, but how much of it was brawn? Yonnis backed away a few paces and then charged. His opponent's horse stamped and tossed its head as if starting to panic. Yonnis saw his chance and used his broadsword to push the bigger man with all his strength and fury. As he connected, the horse bucked and bolted. The mighty column of metal was dumped into the black mud of the moor. The stricken man flailed like an overturned insect. Yonnis jumped from his horse and used his sword to flick up the visor of the helmet. He hesitated. This was King Navan, for sure. Was he gasping or laughing? Yonnis plunged his sword into his enemy's face. He opened his mouth and lungs, expecting a roar of triumph to come out. Instead, it was a howling sob of despair. Time passed. How many moments? Yonnis had shut his eyes and tried to blank his memory. Then he found himself blinking as the sun in the east pierced the last few raindrops of the storm. The mist had cleared as suddenly as it had formed. In the distance, purple mountains wrapped with conifer forests were emerging from the cloud. In front of him, dead and wounded men were scattered across the grass and scrub. Crows and gulls were diving from the sky to eat the faces of the fallen. Some of Yonnis's own Yerelan adventurers were rushing towards him. The Suderite soldiers were on their knees wailing, and they appeared to be looking at him in amazement. Their red-tattooed priest, the Ras, was staring too. Yonnis turned his head. There was a glorious rainbow reaching out from the indigo waves of the Army Gulf and arching over the moor, its colours clearly defined. That would explain their awe, and it was useful. He turned back, took off his green-plumed, lobster-necked helmet, and yelled at the grovelling wretches of the enemy army. King Navan Glantar is dead. Submit to the army of truth. Long live the Republic of Kimalloa. The army of truth, exhausted after a long campaign, found the energy to cheer in relief. Some fell to their knees, praising and thanking the eternal spirit. Some blessed each other, hugging and backslapping. Some were exuberant and roared their triumph. Some chanted for their general, but Yonnis did not raise his hand to draw attention to himself. This was a time for their comradeship. Since the previous battle, they had endured days of mud relentlessly sucking at their boots and wagon wheels, encountering the cinders of villages that the enemy's devastators had torched, trying to help frightened women and children while building barricades and traps to cover the army's rear. Skirmishes, sleeping on straw under wet canvas, eating pottage and longing for home. Yonnis felt a warm joy wash over him as he saw his men smiling and cheering. May the spirit bless them, his brave, uncomplaining heroes who had followed him through a plague of hardships. The end.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh my God, that does need to be a movie. That does. People, if you're listening, if you are movie makers, you need to be getting hold of this young lady, quite frankly, because that's pretty riveting stuff, to be fair.
Thank you.
Oh my God, where is it available?
Oh, it is already available. It was published in October. And so internationally, probably the easiest way to get hold of it is via Amazon. It's available in bookshops in the UK. I'm not sure about the US. Obviously, Kindle is a nice low risk in terms of low entry price way of accessing it. Yes, also there are extracts on my website, bbelsin.com. So if you'd like to try a bit more before you buy, that's another way of doing it.
Lovely, absolutely lovely. Well, firstly, thank you so much for coming on my show and telling me all about you and your book and reading some. It was really cool to spend some time with you and get to know. It sounds bloody amazing. I think I need a cigarette and a cup of tea now, quite frankly. It's already got me a little. I don't smoke. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. People at home, you obviously love her. You're obviously going to want to find out what happens next, because how can you not? I don't know how you're going to sleep tonight, quite frankly. So as a get-go, go and order the download of the Kindle now while you're waiting for your hardback or paperback. I guess it's on paperback. Is it hardback as well?
No.
So while you're waiting for your paperback to come through, get it on Kindle. Get started. You'll sleep much better for it, I can assure you. BB ELSIN, thank you so much for your time and for your talent. I wish you untold amounts of blessings for the book. Already looking forward to Blood, Sweat and Tears, the sequel, and can't wait to watch the movie.
Thank you very much indeed for inviting me onto your show, Jaden.
Bloody pleasure, bloody pleasure. Make sure you come back when that next book's out as well, yeah?
I will do.
Thank you so much. You take care. See you later.
Bye.
Bye-bye. BB ELSIN, thank you so much for coming on my show. It's been bloody lovely to meet you and bloody wonderful to hear your book, of which I need to be reading because you did leave it on a bit of an EastEnders cliffhanger. People at home, you obviously love her. You obviously want to get the book for your collection, for that bookshelf of yours. So you'll find in the description of this episode all the links where you can buy it. And you can also follow BB ELSIN and her social media presence on all the links that are mentioned down below this episode. I hope you have a really, really blessed next few days, and I will see you on the next episode of whatever comes and appears wonderfully on JCTV. You take care. Biggest hugs. Bye-bye.